So, a few days ago, over the course of 3 days, I watched all three of the Lord of the Rings movies. It was so much fun. I absolutely think that Lord of the Rings is the absolute example of the fantasy genre. This time when I watched it, the story was much easier to follow, and I enjoyed the characters more, and I was even able to remember more names, which is pretty hard for me to do, especially considering how complex some of their names are. Yeah. But yeah, it's such a great movie. It's got great story, great characters, great fight scenes, and really, those are some of the most important things to have in any kind of thing involving the fantasy genre, whether it be video games or TV shows or movies or even books. Yeah. Now, if any of you know me pretty well, you can probably guess that my favorite character in Lord of the Rings is Legolas. Yeah, in my mind, he's basically the coolest out of all of them. Yeah, not just cool, but he seems to have a bit of a lonely vibe to him. And I can tell he's a really kind person too. Well, at least from what I can gather. And you all know that I'm pretty into guys like that. Guys that are calm and cool, yet still kind, and are loners to an extent. The only thing is, Legolas doesn't seem to smile and laugh as much as I like. For that reason, I really like to see behind the scenes moments with him on YouTube. I wouldn't say that I'm much of a fan of Orlando Bloom, but he plays Legolas so well. Yeah, he really does. And I remember there's this one video of him and some other characters from like The Hobbit reacting to a fan's reaction to like a movie trailer for The Hobbit, and it was so fun seeing him laughing at that video. And it's so much fun seeing Orlando like in full Legolas attire, smiling and laughing and making jokes. For me, it really helps me balance out my view of Legolas. Now, one thing that I do find a bit annoying about Legolas is that through every battle that he faces, he never gets a scratch. Even when he like goes and attacks that huge elephant thing, he gets out of that completely unscathed, and it's no wonder that Gimli insisted that that kill would only count as one. Yeah, really funny. Yeah. I mean, for the movie itself, the locations, like the hills, the mountains, the towers, the castles, the kingdoms, they're just incredible environments. And I just love fantasy environments. I make some in Maya 3D modeled all by myself. I really do like environments like that. They truly are beautiful, really beautiful. Yeah, but it's far more than just the environments as well. Hmm. Well, like I said before, the characters are fantastic. I mean, I don't really think there are any characters that I dislike or really don't like or anything like that. I really gotta say, those two jokester hobbits, Pippin and Merry, they're such great comedy relief characters, and the reason why they're great is that despite them being comedy relief characters most of the time, they do some pretty significant things for the story. Like, well, I can't really tell them apart because they look and sound so similar. But I do find it impressive that they convinced those tree creatures to take down Isengard. At least I hope that's what it was called. Yeah. And also when one of them prevented that one prince from being burned alive. Yeah. And one of them, and I don't know if it was the same or the other, but one of them actually stabbed that big black armored shadow guy in the back, allowing that woman warrior to kill him. That was pretty impressive. Yeah, very great characters. But of course, great characters have to have great actors. And I really have to say, something that really impressed me about the actors is the guy that played as Aragorn. I think his name is Vigo. Well, I'm sure you all probably know this, but when Vigo had that scene, in that scene where they believed that Pippin and Merry had been slain by the orcs, when Aragorn kicks that helmet and screams, Vigo actually broke his toes. And that take is actually what they use in the movie because the performance was just so great. I mean, they would say that most actors would just scream, that would just say that they're injured, but no. Vigo took advantage of his pain and turned it into performance. Now that's an amazing thing for an actor to do, to take advantage of a situation like that and turn it into an even better performance. Very impressive. What I also like about Aragorn is his romantic relationship with that elf Arwen. I mean, it's so sweet to see them together. I mean, seeing them all romantic and stuff. They make such a wonderful couple. Yeah. Really, really sweet. So sweet. Kind of a bit of a forbidden love thing with her being immortal and all. Which I can imagine that immortality pretty much sucks. But yeah. Love is love. Well, I really gotta say, when I found out that the guy who played the main character, Frodo, was the same guy who played Spyro in the Legend of Spyro series, one of my favorite video game series, I was actually really surprised and I really liked it a lot. I mean, Elijah Wood did a really good job as the main character. He made a really great Hobbit. Fantastic. But I really gotta say, no matter how much I like Lord of the Rings, I will always primarily see Elijah Wood as the legendary purple dragon Spyro. He's basically what I will know him the most as. Yeah, yeah. What else is there? You know, on this one website that have a lot of dress-up games, there's this Lord of the Rings game, and they actually allow you to take a quiz to see what kind of character you would be, like a dwarf, an elf, a hobbit, a wizard. Well, I took that quiz, and according to what I answered, it would seem that my place in Middle Earth would most likely be a wizard. And I like the idea of being a wizard or a sorceress. I mean, the idea of using magic, it definitely appeals to me. Definitely. Magic is like one of my favorite parts of fantasy genre, video games and movies, etc. It really brings a lot of fantasy to it. Yes. What else is there to say? Well, I do have to say the fight scenes are incredible. Yeah, well, with the arrows flying and the swords. The only thing that I think could have made it better if there were more elements to it. like wind and fire and ice and water. I mean, stuff like that could have been awesome. I mean, I know that Gandalf provides a good amount of magic to Lord of the Rings, but I would say that Lord of the Rings would have been better if there was even more magic. Yeah, especially if it was incorporated into the battles. I mean, in my stories, there is a lot of elemental powers like fire, ice, earth, water, all kinds of elements. Because that's the kind of fighting that I really like, fighting with a lot of magic and elemental attacks. Yeah. Well, despite that, the fight scenes are truly amazing. And I have to say, the characters are fantastic too, although many of their names are really hard to remember. I really do enjoy the characters a lot. Oh, you know what? I really have to say, Gollum is such an incredibly well 3D animated character. I mean, he looks impressively realistic. Even though he doesn't look all that realistic, it's still enough to be considered impressive. And his psyche seems so interesting, like he's two people inhabiting the same body, even one bad and one a little bit less bad. It really is interesting. Man, the story, a quest to destroy this one little ring that holds such evil power it can corrupt the minds of anyone who wields it. Yeah, I mean the treacherous journey that Frodo and Sam went through. I mean, gosh, it was intense. I can't believe they. It really just shows the power of courage and determination to save the world from evil. Yeah, but the best thing about the characters is that every single one of them did their part in the story to save the entire world from this horrible evil from Sauron. Is that the Dark Lord's name? I don't know. I can't really remember that well. But yeah, it really is a well thought out story, and it's very creative, the concept. Yeah, it really is fantastic. Lord of the Rings is just fantastic, and I can totally see why people love it so much. I mean, I could totally agree, even though I'm not, even though I'm not, say I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan of it. I have to say, Lord of the Rings could very well be the absolute picture of the fantasy genre. I really do think so. And that's why I consider myself a fan of it.